meeting of the Historic Preservation Board, Denison, Texas, will come to order. It's 12 noon, Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. All members are present: Kurt Chakowski, Linda Anderson, Steve Riley, Rhonda Bourne, and myself. No public comments, I'm assuming? Okay. Then we will move on to items for individual consideration. A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on approving the minutes from the December 19th, 2023 meeting. Any discussion? Everything look good?
Madam Chair, I move approval of those minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Linda Anderson to approve the minutes and a second by Steve Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the exterior of the structure located at 323 West Main Street.
And I'll need to recuse myself.
Okay. Rhonda Bourne has recused herself. Thank you.
Put this item in next.
Oh, for both? Okay.
Yeah, they're both Mr. Days.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Samantha, I have the clicker, so I can do it. Yeah,
Hey,
thank you.
Steve.
You're good now. It's on. Good afternoon. This first item, that's pretty loud, isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes we can't tell. This first item is a request for modifications to the exterior of 323 West Main, the building right across the street, which had been affected by the fire 5 years ago. The applicant is requesting, we're going to go to the images that they're requesting first, just so we stay on the timeline that I'd like you to see. This is what they're requesting. They are looking at replacing all the windows as well as the glazing on the storefront. They will be bronze in structure and bronze in color and aluminum in the framing. They are looking to repoint the brick on the facade as well as the east and rear elevations. They are also looking to place an awning, which would also be bronze in color. It kind of looks black and blends in on that image, so it's difficult to see there, but it's a tie rod awning. They are also looking to add those arched windows across the top of the door, as well as the 2 windows on the first floor. They're using an EFIS material, which is water resistant, for the window hoods on those 3 windows. That is not historically accurate. I wanted to point that out to you. That's not what that building would have looked like in the past. The transom windows that were there a long, long time ago were rectangular in shape, and then those were removed and have the split level storefront at this point in time. They are also requesting to paint the building Remember Me red, as well as Country whitewash, both of which are within the appropriate color palette. The building has been painted before. It is white, and Chairman Solomon pointed out to me that previous modifications that were approved to paint it a different color, which was gray, did not take place, but painting that brick would be appropriate since it has been done before. Prior action to this request, there were 3 different times that modifications to the exterior were approved. The first was in April of 2019, and that is depicted on your screens. You'll notice as we go through these that the window formation is much more similar to what would have been there historically. The next one was done in November of 2019, none of which of this work has been completed, of course. And then this is what's being proposed today. Staff does make a recommendation to approve with consideration given to the windows due to the configuration and the size and shape being different. I do not believe the applicant is here, so I am present for any questions.
Ms. Tate, will you go back in your discussion of approval of the windows with modifications? Granted, it's not how it would have looked historically, But I'm thinking if we're gonna get anywhere close, then those huge panels of glass at the bottom could be troublesome for me.
I'm agreeing, because if I go back, this was a non-contributing building at the National Registry. But if we're gonna go back to our can't take that one out of the record.
Yes, you
Our
can. Yeah,
historical
scratch
period of interest, and if I look at the other buildings that we have approved here, like the city building, then if you go back to the current plan, that would be in the same style. And so I don't necessarily have a problem that it doesn't go back to the building that it was at that time, since that was a non-contributing building anyway. I think I have that correct, don't I?
It became it's stated as a contributing building from the Historic Resources Survey.
I saw that, but then I went back to the 83 documents, and it is a non-contributing, at
the
least
register.
listed at that time to the registry as a non-contributing building.
Yep, I saw that.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. It looks like it is from that historic time period, and it's similar to others we'll have on Main Street. So if the concern is this versus if you now go to the other two ones that previously approved, that one or that one, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. In fact, if anything, it looks like the current one is more historic to our time period of interest.
That was my impression. This is a better design than the previous ones that are approved, but
With the exception of the glass going all the way down on the lower.
That was the one thing that I would have, is I would like to see the bulkhead.
you have, I'm
The
gonna
bulkhead.
ask, you need to see a bulkhead.
And since all of it's being replaced anyway, it does seem that we're in a position to request perhaps a different visual. I don't have a problem at all with all the work that will be done on the building, and I applaud it. But since those are new windows, it would seem to me there would be no reason for them not to be, at least artificially seem to be painted. But I will defer to my esteemed colleagues in that regard.
My concern, I'm coming back to the Historic Preservation Officer, as far as a motion or that we would consider. And I had thought of the paned windows or not, but I don't quite know yet. But my question is, how would we craft a motion saying we approve it but request or require bulkheads in accordance with our?
I would say, but require, if that's what you'd like to see.
And does that now become a requirement of his?
Yes?
I'm looking at our two permitting and,
He could go back and,
He can appeal it.
he could appeal it, and if he doesn't want it, I mean, but if we, remember 501, we asked for the bulkhead, and we did, and it was, so if we thought, hey, we're gonna be consistent now, and I like the design it is, but with the fact that we've asked for the bulkhead before, I would like to be reasonably consistent along the way, so. And if he doesn't like that, then he can certainly appeal it, and P&Z or whatever, but I'm kind of with you, I think, we're both on this, and just on the consistency side, that's the way I would probably craft the motion.
yeah, my only concern is with 501, it was in his previous plan, so therefore we could require it. This one, it's not in his plan. And so if we move to approve it, except it requires bulkheads on the storefront, not the doors, is that a valid motion?
But
I
on
mean,
the
can we do
previous
that?
ones that they had
The
approved.
previous approves, yes.
And that not only be consistent with what our actions are, but what past actions were for that particular building.
Yes, Sam, if you could go to either one of the others.
That-
On the pictures, yeah, because you can see those are planners, but there's the bulkheads.
And we certainly have a number of buildings with those giant expanses of glass. That doesn't aesthetically make it better to me, but I also agree with the notion of precedent being set. So I will in fact defer with that condition glazing in the bulkhead.
Yeah, what I'm struggling with is, for a recommended motion is, can we make it a conditional approval that if this design were to include bulkheads on the storefront windows, then it would be approved?
That's fine, if you'd like to do it that way.
And then that wouldn't have to come back.
No.
would it?
I have a question.
You can request that, however, and just like we do in planning and zoning, and that is a done deal, even if the applicant is not present.
Okay. I know, Kirsten.
Okay, so I do have a question. I'm looking at the floor plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at the front entry elevation.
Yep.
And I'm not seeing a fire egress from the upper lofts, which,
So we're not
I'm
quite
curious
to that
about that.
point yet, when they have not submitted any interior remodel plans. So when that happens, Kirk will review all of that and say, you need to come back and provide a second means of egress.
but then that would change the front facade on the lower,
Depends
have
where they
it-
put it.
to have an egress.
It depends where they place it.
Where they what? I'm
Where
sorry.
they place
Where they-
the second form of egress. And I don't know, Kirk, due to, they may not need it, I mean, they'll need it off the rear.
Right, they'll probably, I imagine they're gonna go to the rear on the second egress.
But
So
we,
a front egress is not mandatory any longer?
They don't have it on
What-
501.
Right.
Well, I
They
think
don't
there
have the
is,
second one on 501 either. On the second floor, there's only one way to leave the building.
Yeah, so has that code changed?
No, you have windows.
so that
They have
hasn't,
windows, correct, but there's, unless one chose to jump out, there's no provision to leave that building for it to catch on fire except for the stairs and the side entrance.
so they may have to redesign the interior, but that's not what
Right,
this meeting's for right now, right?
unless it changes the front,
right.
then they have to come back.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I
Correct.
suppose my inquiry has more to do with what the requirements are regarding fire code and the issuing of a certificate of occupancy if those requirements are not met.
Correct, they'll have to have a second one, but they have not even submitted for any of the building permits yet, so we're just not even to that point of reviewing any of their plans. This was just included with their application.
Okay. Any other questions?
Have you got it in your mind how to?
I do.
Okay.
If you go back to the first picture with side by side. All right, Madam Chairman, I move to recommend the proposed updates if it include bulkheads on the storefront windows to the exterior of 323 West Main Street. Just giving Karen a chance to catch up.
So you're not placing this as a condition of approval?
Where the motion would be, I move it if they include.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Kurt Chakowski to approve with condition, and a second by Steve Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item C, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request for a certificate of appropriateness for a sign at 226 West Main Street, Suite 101.
Thank you. This application was for a sign located at 226 West Main Street, the new construction building, 3 doors down, right over here. As you know, it's recessed back a little bit, and the applicant believes that they're having some trouble getting some visibility there, so the sign is to assist with that. The sign is 16 feet in width, and the letters are 18 inches tall. We do have a requirement that it can be no larger than 25 square feet, so it comes just under that for that section of their building. The letters are to be placed perpendicular to the awning, and the property owner has given his approval of the design and the size, as well as the placement via email. I do have an application to be signed for, I'll issue the COA if approved. The applicant is not here.
No, I just find it ironic that if we hadn't had an inset, we wouldn't have had the problem. At least that's the rationale it's given.
The sign will be secured to the front of the existing awning above the business's doors, i.e. flush with the facade of the building?
Flush with the awning, the projecting awning, so it's not.
Which side? Not the street side.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be sure we're talking about the same thing. You're talking about the front of the sign to the front of the building versus the sign could still have the back of the sign attached to it. In other words, or is your question about how it's going to be secured?
Now, my question is, will it be on the plane, excuse me, Mr. Microphone, will it be on the plane with the facade of the building, or will it bump out to the edge of the awning?
It'll bump out.
Yeah.
It'll be placed directly onto the awning, right? Which isn't, I don't know, let's say it's 12 inches tall, right, that awning piece, so it'll go right on there. So it'll extend depending on how they secure it, either above or it'll possibly be centered on there, but that detail was not provided.
Exactly. I can't get it to the facade because.
No, I think if they want to have the visibility, they're going to want it as far to the street as they can. So I
Indeed,
understand it.
indeed.
Anybody else?
Do I have a motion?
I make a
To
motion, we
approve?
approve the sign as presented.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve Riley and a second by Kurt Chakowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to staff up. Okay. Move on to staff updates. Receive an update on the administrative approval of a sign at 409 West Main Street, number 101.
Yes, this was a sign I administratively approved for 409 West Main for Vasquez Mexican Food. It will be a vinyl sign, similar to that of the barber shop next door, so it should fit in nicely. The sign will be white, the reverse of what's up there, but we told the woman she was not able to order it until I came before you, so. She has her COA upstairs, but she has not yet come to pick it up, so that is the only staff update. Well, I guess there's one more. You know, our training today was canceled, so we do need to get that scheduled. They said that they are willing to schedule it as soon as possible. So we will look at dates and send maybe a Survey Monkey out or something like that. I'm not sure how you selected it before, but if that's okay with you, we'll try to get that done by mid-March, I think is a good idea. Does that work?
That works
Okay.
for me. All right. I'd like to get a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn today's Historic Preservation Board meeting.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Kurt Chakowski, second by Linda Anderson. All in favor to adjourn this meeting?
Aye.
Aye.